Prerana, it's an interesting thing that you have put together. You have a 6-point formula for a 6-step process for helping people manage their finances. I want to know a little bit more about that, if you could take us through that.
True. Okay, I'll begin from the beginning rather. So the first thing to do whenever you start planning is look at what you already have. Like what I've said is take stock of your assets. If you have any liabilities, take stock of them, and most important, take stock of your insurance policies, because you've been investing in them every year probably just to get, that ATC benefit. So what I mean is, there were a lot of changes in the last couple of 10, 15 years in the investment arena. Like DMAT happened, and people have still not cleared that up. A lot of share certificates are languishing in your cupboards, wherein busy professionals haven't got time to look at. So my say is get that done. Get your DMATs done. Create your files. Get rid of those old, shares which you invested in during the bull run, thinking that it'll start moving, etc. If it's not moving, clear it out. Don't be in the eternal hope that it's going to rise. Just have a clear portfolio. Start with a clean slate. That's what I'm saying. Make a list. Use your computer. You make an Excel sheet of all your investments. Get your 6-year NSCs in place, your PPF in place, those which have matured. Get the money into your account. The UTI had a change in the middle some 5 years ago. Get all your policies settled. Get a list of all your investments in place. The next thing is look at your liabilities. Credit card dues are also liabilities. Sometimes they grow to such exponential proportions that you don't realize where your money is going to go. Sometimes it makes more sense clearing off your your credit card liabilities or outstanding dues, because you've been paying more interest on them rather than your investment portfolio is earning. So it makes sense sometimes liquidating your investment portfolio and cleaning up these liabilities. Lastly, take stock of your insurance, because what is happening is you've taken up insurance policies. Probably your parents have taken it in your name and you've never looked at it. So get a list of all that done, because some policies, they hardly return you anything. They may be returning you about 4.5%, 5%. You have probably invested in an endowment or a ULIP. It's not going to be giving you anything. Get rid of those if they have cleared the threshold time horizon. So basically, when I say take stock of everything. Take stock of your total life insurance cover that you have. Take stock of what insurances are hiding behind the investment tag, because honestly, insurance and investment are not the same. Insurance is insurance, investment is investment. This I'm saying as a financial planner, because a lot of people get into insurance as an investment. I would say look at the returns from them and then decide for yourself whether it's an investment or an insurance. Now the second step would be, once you've done this, create your monthly budget. Like know what exactly where is your money going, where is the money coming in. Now what happens is most of us know where our money is going. We know we have a budget in place, or rather we have a list of our expenditure. For people who don't know that, the best way is to watch yourself, see yourself for the last 3 months, take note of every expenditure that you make in a diary, and probably, put it down, segregate it between your expenses, say as living expenses or entertainment expenses, children's expenses, petrol expenses. Segregate everything. That means you have a clear idea of where your money is going and where your hard-earned money is getting expended. So once you have this, what you will have in your the final picture of a budget will be your total income, then total expenditure, and the money remaining at the end of the month. When I say money remaining, this also includes any investments that you have made, which won't go in as expenditures, but which would come in as savings and investments. Once you have this, and once you have your existing investment portfolio, this is what we call an asset side on your financial planning balance sheet. Now the next crucial factor is, this could take a time. It couldn't have just happened in 1 hour of your life. Probably you might want to sit over a weekend or probably even a month and think about it. It's more of a philosophical thing, Ajay, when you sit down and think about what life means to you. Probably you might think that life would be fulfilling if you take that entire journey across the world, or life would be fulfilling if you start a business of your own or a venture, or probably life will be fulfilling if you put your kids to a particular class you never got a chance to go in yourself. Probably start them in a tennis class or music class or a dance class. For that, once you've done that, the easiest way of achieving this is converting it into financial figures. Like probably if you want your child to get into a say a tennis coaching class, the best thing would be to find out what is that class costing in your area today. Like probably it might cost you about 6,000 a month. Do you have that expenditure, which is in your budget, or probably you'll have to plan for a few months to create a corpus for that. Or probably you want to send your child in 10-15 years for, an engineering class, but you don't see the money on your financial balance sheet right now. So the thing is, we need to build up towards that corpus. The best way to do that is find out what it costs today and put in an inflation, figure, a realistic inflation figure. And, find out what it will cost in that many days. Probably in 10 years, your child will turn about 20. So maybe in 10 years, what is it going to cost when he's ready to get into engineering college? So that's what I mean when you're looking at financial, converting your goals into financial pointers. Then once you have this in mind, hello? Once you have this, once you've understood your life goals, the next thing would be to do is to allocate your existing investments over these life goals. And when we do that, when I say allocating investments over life goals, what we are saying is find out those investments which can be taken over the aspects of your life goals. Like suppose your child is going to get that engineering education in 10 years, probably a mutual fund which is into a large cap stock can be used towards achieving that life goal. So this is more of a matching thing. You put your investments on one column, goals on one column, and the long-term investments you join to your long-term goals. The short-term investments you join to your short-term goals. By short-term, I mean maybe a bank FD, or probably what you can use is a mutual fund which is ready to mature, or probably a goal fund you can use for a medium to long-term goal. So why we do this is it's always important aspect that the life goals and your investment, the time horizon should match between the two. And when we do this, when we are deciding upon, once this is done, we could have a shortfall. Like probably engineering is going to cost, say, 45-50 lakhs in about 10 years. And you see, you just have a corpus of 10 lakhs right now. So we need to build that 30 lakhs of corpus in the next 10 years. So how do you go about doing it? The savings figure that you get in your budget, that is where we are going to learn to allocate that amount towards investments, which would take us there. So that is how we keep planning. This is called allocation of investments over your life goals. And when we plan that savings amount towards your investments, it is very essential to know your risk appetite, because probably you might not be the person who can handle an equity or a share investment. So it's most recommended because that's the best way to increase your portfolio returns. But if it's going to cause you a lot of heartache, or if you're not comfortable doing that, the best way to do is stay away from it, or probably reduce your life goals in certain situations, because what happens is, achieving a life goal at the risk of your health is obviously not recommended. So somewhere you need to compromise either on the investments that you're going to make or the goals that are looking unreachable at the moment.
Yeah, Prerana, just to quickly look at this once again. So we started off by saying that take a stock of an existing, what do you have? Your investments, your liabilities, what do you owe and what do you have?
Basically your balance sheet.
Yeah.
Right?
So you create some kind of a balance sheet, use an Excel, use a Word document. Excel is better because you do the math on it. Yeah, and then you try and figure out what your monthly budget is. What is your outflow every month?
Yeah. And what are you left with at the end of the month?
Exactly. And then you move on to sitting down, take that break, take that vacation. Let's call it a life goals vacation, So go find yourself a place where you can sit alone and prepare your life goals. And just one interesting thought is that when you were saying, I could also see that there are largely three categories of life goals. One is a short term, one is a mid term, and one is a long term. So if I'm a young couple, child's education is really far away. So that engineering is about 18 years away, 20 years away. But the immediate thing is to probably buy a car. So maybe when we are doing that Excel sheet of understanding your life goals, we are breaking them down into buckets of short term, mid term, and long term. Yeah.
Correct. Absolutely. Yes. Correct. You use a very interesting word, bucket. You can in your mind create your goals into buckets. Once you create the goals, you're buying a car, all the investments that fit into that bucket to build in that car, to get that bucket complete, to fill in with that car goal. That's what we mean by plotting and allocating your investments towards goals. See, because once you do this exercise, your investments have a a target. Your investments have a purpose. If you were to blindly be investing in say shares and not knowing where it's taking, obviously it's going to build your corpus one day. But they are not tagged towards particular reasons. So one interesting thing is when a market falls, and like right now what's happening is it is a little jittery right now. So a person who is a bit of a who has not got the appropriate risk appetite, he might get scared into exiting from the share market. But what we believe is once you slot your investments into particular baskets, if you decided that you want to invest in your mutual funds to achieve that goal of getting your child into an engineering college in the next 10 years, you will not touch your shares or your mutual funds till 10 years because you know that it's supposed to return to you something in the next 10 years. So that's what I mean by allocating your investments towards particular goals. You've given your investments a purpose and that investment has to achieve that purpose. So it is more of like your emotions are not going to play with your investments at the end of this.
Perfect. So let's go on from there. So you've allocated funds based on your risk profile and what you want to achieve. Where do we go from there?
Yes. Yeah. So the next what you could do is the investment. What I say is the investment plan you have to create to cover the gap between the life goals and portfolios. For example, I've taken that one incidence of creating that engineering college corpus. We said that maybe it might take in 10 years about 30 lakhs. In the first year, when I say 30 lakhs, for the next 4 years probably it might take 30 lakhs in all. We've got about 10 lakhs. So we have a gap of about 20 lakhs to reach out there. So what we do now is whatever surpluses you're making at the end of each month, we utilize them in such a manner that every month you invest and the returns and the investment together should reach that figure of 20 lakh shortfall. So then we make an asset allocation wherein based on this kind of equation we decide what kind of returns you need based on the amount you can save, based on the amount that you would be increasing, because what happens is your income is obviously going to increase not as fast as probably your expenditure. Maybe income might increase over 5% every year. So taking that into account, we make an equation and understand what kind of investments you should make into probably a debt or an equity. As far as possible, if you have a lower risk appetite, we would try to help you with more of a debt allocation. So this is what we mean, and generally when we do all this, we also advise people to get an emergency fund in place. When we say emergency fund, it's about 3 to 6 months of your expenditure, your regular expenditure. Emergencies don't sound like knocking at your door. They don't tell you that we're coming in. One fine day they'll knock at your door and you realize there's emergency expenditure. So the best way is to build up towards this. The best way is to keep that money liquid, probably in your bank or even nowadays, so the returns have been good, in a savings account, so that whenever you need this money, the funds are ready. You don't have to break any investments, you don't have to take a loan from anybody, and you have your financial dignity in place. So whenever you do this, you need your emergency funds in place. Secondly, have your health insurance in place. I mean, we always say that, in case of a life insurance, the person is dead and the person is dead and he is gone, he's left a family. Obviously, for whom he has to. But when a person is sick or he's bedridden, he's got a terminal illness, he is living that life, he has increased his expenditure towards that life, plus he has made his family helpless in terms of financial, independence. So I always feel that a health insurance is more recommended than a life insurance, though obviously you need to have both of them in your kitty if you're the sole owning member of the family. Because, and what has happened is now the government has included, rupees 5,000 under 80B for preventive health measures. This could help in early detection of illnesses like cancer or diabetes, etc. But in case of an accident or anything like that, there are obviously no tests to be done. So the best way to cover these up is with a health insurance. Make sure you have an appropriate amount based on what kind of risk you face in your daily life. Probably you're commuting by a bike or probably commuting by a car. Based on that, maybe you could take a 2 to 3 lakh of health insurance policy every year. So this is what I mean when take stock of your financial situation. So this is what we talk about when we are doing financial planning for an individual, especially for women. I would say take advantage of that new policy under APB, wherein rupees 5,000 are huge for it gives you a lot of tax offs under for preventive health checkups.
Super, Prerana. That's a wonderful insight. In terms of getting that health insurance, but also speaking about investments, staying on that topic of investments, there is an interesting thing that you had shared about, about, and I'm just going to move to that slide where you had said understanding the power of compounding. Yeah. And you have taken an example of if your target retirement corpus is about 2 crores, how can we go about it? Can you just, I'm sharing that slide right now. If you could just walk us through that.
Yeah, sure. We spend our lives earning money, and obviously that money is supposed to be, working hard to earn that money. The power of compounding is when we say we are making that hard-earned money work harder than us. That's what, we talk about. When we say power of compounding, we mean compound interest. The earlier you save in your life, I mean in your 20s, it's very difficult to envisage, a good retirement because you've just started on life. You can't imagine yourself in your 60s or 70s. It's very difficult. But what we are trying to say through the power of compounding is the earlier you start investing, the earlier you start putting in a little bit of money from your earnings, and sacrificing a bit of your expenses, the more it's going to help in your later life. Let's see how. See, suppose we say that, build up a retirement corpus of say 2 crores. It might seem daunting in today's day, but even 2 crores is a bit less if you're looking at it, a middle class individual in the next 25-30 years. But let's say take a ballpoint figure that you have looking at a retirement of 2 crores. You look at retiring at the age of 60, and we are investing in a portfolio of investments which will aggregate you 9% per annum. This could include a portfolio of a portfolio of stocks, in short, an adequate debt equity ratio. And your current age, now let's see if a person of age 25 starts investing, that means his age to retirement, the years to retirement, he's still got 35 years. Based on this, if you see, his annual requisite to reach this goal based on a 9% return is he has to save an annual amount of 92,000, which works out around 7,000 a month. This is if he starts keeping aside his money, making this corpus when he's 25. But the same guy, if he starts, or the woman, if she starts saving up for a retirement in age 35, she would have to keep 19,000 a month aside, vis-a-vis 7,000 if she had started at age 25. And if she starts later in life, say at age 44, she would have to keep aside 56,000 a month. So what we are trying to say is the earlier you start keeping aside that money, the lesser you'll have to keep aside, because at age 7,700 per month for the next 35 years is not going to be a big task in his later years, because obviously his income is going to increase by 5% per annum. But when you're in your 40s and when you're in your 50s, your income, tends to increase at a reduced rate of not maybe 5%, maybe 2 to 3% per annum. But even then, if you were to keep 56,000 a month aside, then it would be more daunting, obviously, than when you were at age 25. So this is what a part of compounding means. Your money is earning interest higher than what it would have in the later years. It's a very important, technique, and it just has this, it puts the picture starkly that the earlier you start investing, the more it's going to benefit you.
Yeah, very interesting, Prerana. And there is also a hidden fallacy here, and we have Gajendra here. We're going to speak to him about this a little later, and also Ajay. But very interestingly, at age 25, you're really not thinking about life, your life goals.
Exactly.
Yeah, and by the time you're exactly, and by the time you're 35, suddenly life is spot on with you, and you suddenly have your liabilities increasing. I think, and I think this understanding of how you can manage your financial horizon or your investments from a life goal perspective should be as knowledge be introduced as early as in maybe in universities and colleges for people to help understand how to manage their their finances.
Correct. Yeah. Even if it's simple side of its power of compounding what you introduce, it's really got a phenomenal effect on the mind, because what happens is in your 20s, you're bound to have lesser dependence, you're bound to have money which you can actually put aside, rather than the guy actually is breaking his brains to think, now where can I spend, So he could put aside his money, and it's not going to pinch at all, and you would be amazed at what kind of work it's going to do for him when he's in his 30s and 40s.
Thanks, Prerana. And looking at the time, we have to move on. So the key insight here is understand the power of compounding, start early, and understand your life goals, understand where you are right now and plan accordingly. And the interesting insight that you also gave us is that look at the new, the tax saving deductions that you have. Look at, in buying a good health insurance cover. So those are the key insights. Moving on from there, I'll take a moment. So moving on from there, we also talked about, typically talking about women, and let's focus on this. You also shared some 8 goals that women come across. If you could quickly run us through how could women typically plan for this, the 8 goals that you spoke about.
Basically, this is just a general, what we come across when we're dealing with women. Women shouldn't, the listener shouldn't be thinking that this is the goal that I should be having, because it's a very personal thing, whatever is important in your life. The best way to plan towards this is first find out whether these goals are, long-term or short-term. Like planning a vacation with the girls, etc. It probably is a function of whether you have the money right now to take it. So if you have the money right now, it's a short-term goal. If you don't have it and we have to build a purpose towards it, it will depend upon how much money you can keep aside. It could be a medium-term goal. Or in fact, all these you can slot them in the same category. Try to slot them into short-term, long-term, and medium-term goals. Generally, a children's fund is a long-term goal because you generally start planning when they're young because you have these dreams for them. You want them to do a post-grad or whatever. Another important thing when we're talking about children is, as women, I think we should take the prerogative to start investing for them too earlier. Like you put them a PPF account to start SIPs in their name. It is a financially healthy thing to do because again for them, the earlier you start investing for them, the better it's going to be when they're ready for it. So retirement is a long-term goal. Generally for the long-term goals, we do see a lot of equity investments because in the long run, as we all know, equities are much more safe. They return much better. And marriage again is a long-term fund if it's for your children. If it's for yourself, probably it's a short-term or a medium-term goal. So based on the time horizon, we generally tell people to make the investments accordingly. If one does not have the inclination or time to do so, well, we are certified financial planners. We're always there to guide them accordingly.